Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about relations and functions. What a relation is it's a way that you pair an input, usually with algebra it's x value, with an output, which in algebra is usually going to be treated like a y value. So the most common way to do that is with ordered pairs. You might have seen these guys in the past. They are usually written as an x, y format or situation. And just as example, you might have something like 1, 3, negative 3, 5. Just anything kind of like this. 7, 7. There you go. There's some examples of ordered pairs. Now, this format can be written multiple ways of these relations. Another way you're going to see this year are input-output tables. I'll show you what those guys look like in a second. These guys have the same information, but it's in a table form. So we'll call it input x, output y, and then we've got something like this where you really just have the same information right here, but you put it right here. So with ordered pairs, we got to remember our first, Our first number is the x, the second number is the y. So what we do, we take the same numbers and we just put them here. So this would be 1 in the x input, 3 with the output. And again, what that means is if you put 1 into the function, you will get a 3 as the output. Okay, and I'll show you more on that in a second. So we got an input output, so 1, 3. Then if we use the same values, we just have negative 3, 5. And again, we just have that 7, 7 at the end. So hopefully you can see these values are the same as these guys right here. They're just written differently because this is an input-output table. You put in a 1 for the x, you get a 3. Same thing here. When x is 1, y is 3. Ta-da. Oh, I should put a box around my table. There you go. Usually tables are going to have boxes around them like that. But there we go. And the other way I want to talk about today that you're going to see relations are with graphs. And usually these guys are going to be an XY graph. Maybe you've seen these before, maybe you haven't. Important to remember that X is that horizontal axis, or goes left to right. Y is the vertical axis, it goes up, down. And you've got something like this. So that's negative 2. Negative 3. You're going to see a ton of graphs in algebra. And in every math you do beyond algebra, you will usually see a fair amount of graphing. So, if we were to graph these particular points, 1, 3, that first x point right here, we can graph that. The first number moves you left, right, always starting from the origin, and the second number moves you up, down. So if I was to just try to graph these guys, it'd be right 1, up 3. There's my dot. And then negative 3, 5. I can go back 3 or left 3 from the center. So kind of 1, 2, 3, and then up 5, all the way up to 5. I don't have a 5 on here. I'll put it right there. There's a 5. Pop. So there's my 5. Pop. Okay. And then, of course, 7, 7. Let's see. I'm running out of room on my graph here. Sorry. My 7, 7 would probably be someplace up there. Anyway, and sometimes teachers will have you label your points. So, just in case your teacher wants you to do that, we'll go 7, 7 right there. We'll go 1, 3, and negative 3, 5. So that's the way to just kind of get all your information like presented and shown in different ways. Okay. Now, so these guys are all relations. Now we're going to talk about functions. How functions work is each input only has one output. That's what makes functions a function, okay? So each input, remember those are our x's, has exactly one output, and that's a y value, okay? Now, things to point out. The same y values, or the same outputs, are okay. Oops. However, the same x values are not okay. Oh, we're going to give that guy a sad face. Now, what do I mean by that? I will show you. So here's an easy function. We've got 3, 5, 8, -2, and 6, 7. Oh my, there it is, 6, 7. So this guy's a function. How do we know that? Wheel. What I look for is I look at the x's. Do the x's repeat? No, they do not. We only have 1, 3. We only have 1, 8. We only have 1, 6. So that is a function. Now, if I was to add a different number, if we added, say, 612, now all of a sudden we wouldn't have a function. Why is that? Not a function. Because now 6, our input, goes to 7 and 12, which is 2 outputs. Because now 6, our input, has 2 outputs. Because it goes to 7 and 12, okay? Those are 2 outputs. We don't want that. So every input can only go to 1 output. If it ever goes to 2, it's not a function, all right? So I'll give you guys a few more examples just so we see the process. So if we had maybe 6, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2, and 5, 1. So this is example 1. So right here you can see, okay, we've got 1, 6, 1, 5, 1, 4, and a 5. Uh-oh, I used the same 5 right here. That's a problem, okay? Because the 5 goes to 3 and the 5 goes to 1, this is not a function. Okay. Now, I want to show you one more thing that can throw people for a loop. We are going to use a table this time. How about that? Remember an XY table? It gives you the same information as coordinates, it just presents it differently. So we'll just say like 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 6. And right away, you might think, oh, well, hold on. I've got 2 numbers repeat. That's not a function. No, it is a function because these are outputs. The main thing we don't want is the input to go to, like the same input to go to 2 different numbers. So x does not repeat. So this is actually okay. This is a function. Oops, I should do that in red. This is a function. The main way you're going to see functions modeled in the real life is probably with when you get paid for a job. So just as a side note, like what is a function? Like when do you see these things? The most common way you'll see a function is with your pay. Let's pretend you're working for, I don't know, $8 an hour. So if we made a quick equation for you, your funds, your big money, would be, say you make $10 an hour, $10 for every hour that you work. This is a function because if you were to work 8 hours, you know what? I can put my 8 right into there. 10 times 8 is 80. Okay. So, quick example of a real life function. And I will say, if you worked 8 hours and got $20, you know that'd be a problem. Anyway, so next video, I'm going to show you guys the vertical line test for functions. So you can stick around for that. Thanks for watching.